Toxic. I'm ill. I'm ill. I'm not feeling very well. You can call me bloody Crypto, Superman's dog, because I'm sick as a dog. Shouldn't have said dog first. You can call me Crypto because I'm sick as a dog. You can call me Eddie from Frasier because I'm sick as a dog. I'm not feeling very well. Finally, it's come around to me. I'm blocked up. I'm a bunged up West Brit abroad. I'm not West Brit. No, I'm not West Brit. But you remember that show? But Banged Up Abroad and Brits Abroad, whatever. Listen, I'm not feeling very well. But that doesn't mean I'm not in the mood to talk and totally objectify some video game animals. I'm definitely I'm always in the mood for that. And can I set the record straight with my I'm still the thug that you love to hate? Motherfucker, I hit him up. Can I set the record straight? Bit of 2-pack for you there, just thrown in. Bonus, gratis. Bit of 2-pack for you there, gratis. Let me just set the record straight, okay? When I did the original, now legendary, Cartoon Cat Fuckers sponsored Hottest Disney Animals competition, probably over 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, right? I had people come to me, friends of mine, a friend, and say, Tony, you need to stop. They said, stop. They said, I'm totally behind what you do. What you're doing there is too weird. And it makes me uncomfortable. And I think it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, you talking about these sort of things. What the fuck? Whatever it was. Maid Marian. Ratchet from Chippendales Rescue Rangers, right? Yes. I know that's weird. But I need to set the record straight. When I talk about these creatures, when I talk about these animals, I am not talking about their penises. I am not talking about their vaginas. I'm not thinking about this. You see? I'm not thinking about their assholes or cloacas. All right? I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm kind of positioning them on a tier on, look, who is the most attractive? Who is the most objectively, term I'm using, fuckable? Would I can't. As much as I would love to. I'm not allowed. What am I going to jump in a video game? What am I going to be in a fucking Def Leppard video? It's not going to happen. Or whatever. Dire Straits. Whoever had the stupid little CG thing where they're jumping in. What am I, Tron? I can't Tron my way into fucking Donkey Kong. Start giving Funky Kong a rimmer. I'm not able to do that. So I have to kind of move on. Okay? So I'm not able to do that. So I won't. I'm not going to do it. So, and I often think with some of the things that I say, I have a very disposable level of smut, right, to me. I know that's not probably even the best term. But when I think of things, and I say I've used this example before, but I wouldn't, people don't even say eat a bag of dicks, but something like that, sit on a dick. Sit on it. Fonzie used to say that, and that was on primetime TV. Some people will hear Fonzie say sit on it, and they'll be like, haha, that's funny, But then other people are like, sorry, he's actually saying, and they would visualize literally kind of squatting with a bare arse on, I'm not even getting the detail of it, you know what I mean? On his penis. And in kind of coital fucking, they would, I'm sorry to go into detail, but I need to set the record straight. A lot of people would visualize that. Some people, surprisingly more prudish people, have a sicker, visual mind, Like if I say up yours to someone, like that, to a Liam Gallagher, and I'm doing the 2 fingers, right? Up yours. They're actually visualizing stuff going up their own asshole, right? And I don't visualize that. It's disposable for me. I can say these things without living in them, right? But some people have a very visual, sensitive memory. They're a very sensitive, visual, sphere of their mind. See the way I just make up terms when I don't know anything about brains? The sphere of their mind is very visual, okay? Their holodeck is more finely in tune or smuttier than mine. So a lot of people might feel uncomfortable because it's maybe hitting a bit too close to home for them. For me, you know, just another whatever it is Friday, you know. So I hope you don't take my I hope you don't confuse my cavalier attitude towards making love to video game animals as some sort of you know, fucking carnal rage. The hair in my mouth. How did it get there? Probably my beard. Do you know what as well? I used to, moving on from this now, because people probably don't even want to hear me talk about that. That probably was a little bit too much for some people, right? But now that you're still here, I'll throw in a little bit of extra witty observations. So now, you build something up like that. It's never going to be as good as whatever. I'm just thinking recently. Do you know those people, like I had to wear like a hairnet when I worked in Dunn's and when I worked in the zoo. The zoo was the worst though. The zoo was, as I've told you before, I had to put my hair in a hairnet, which was a lot of hair, put it all up in a hairnet, right? And it was big, and then put a hat gingerly atop it, like it was fucking Mr. Potato Head. And that's cruel. That's cruel. I was wearing the hat. I was in the back kitchen making chips, as you know, and they, for some reason, they had me put the hat on as well. I reckon just so they could laugh at me. No need for the hat on top of the hair. Looking like fucking Jackson 5 with a little Mr. Potato Head hat. But anyway, there was other people. I couldn't grow a beard then, but there was people there in the kitchen who had to wear hairnets over their beard. Lads who'd be like, yeah, I mean, this would have been before Vikings, but, kind of lads been like, yeah, I kind of do Vikings extra work. It's kind of my full-time job, do that on the weekends, and I'm working this kip. My real passion is metal and being a Vikings extra, people like that. I met a few people like that. They're really nice. But I wonder if they're raging now to see everyone wearing all these like face masks and face coverings. And they're like, where the fuck was a face mask when I was wrapping 2 hairnets around my mouth in a figure of 8 just so I wouldn't get a fucking pube in the chips, But anyway, look, we'll get on with the competition now that preamble's out of the way. And again, I want to thank associate producer of this very podcast, Ben Clifford, for compiling this list, for going through probably an hour of pure smut. Compiling, no, she's not hot enough, having to make these weird decisions for something that he didn't really want to have to do. He had no problem with it, but, I asked him to do this. And make sure that they're the hottest ones, okay, Ben? Okay. It's mad. Like, it's the same thing that, it's not the same thing at all. Firstly, let me say that. It's not the same thing at all as the thing I'm going to say. But I always thought it was weird that there's, those lads who had to, like, set up those kind of, like, pedo sting operations and, like, had to, like, pretend to be girls online. And they would have to put, like, a little picture in their avatar. And they would have to be, like, going on stock images of girls. And then be like, no, Peter's not going to fall for that. No, I wouldn't fall for that. Oh, no, definitely go with her. I was like, it's mad. It's mad. But anyway, look, I should also say I think pedos are awful people. All right, first off, okay, we got Ratchet versus Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, I've not played Five Nights at Freddy's. I have it on the Switch upstairs. I've not played it yet. I know it was a big mobile game for a while, a scary game where a lot of kind of automatons and robot things come to life, and it's a big kind of spooky game. I know it was very big, it was very popular. Whenever you go into GameStop, a lot of merch in there. I don't like the look of the clown. I don't like the look of him. I don't like his little mouth. I know he's creepy. He's got kind of weird, kind of like human eyes behind his eyes. And Ratchet, I'm going to be honest, I've never had a real thing for. I don't like his little hat. He's missing a key tuft of hair atop his head. It's a key piece that's missing. I just cannot get behind that kind of Siamese rounded hat cat thing. It's not for me. I need a bit of tuft. I need a bit of character. Either that or lose the eyebrows and give him like big red lips and make him like a hot bird. I've never been a big thing for Ratchet. Now, I did play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I had a good time. I thought it was very satisfying. I thought just as an actual shooter, it was very satisfying gunplay. And let me tell you, hopefully you're in the position to at least be able to get an in-stock PlayStation 5 if you're in the position to afford one. But this fucking thing, even with Cyberpunk now when I'm playing it with this controller, it is next level. I've always been into some level of first-person shooters, but never fully, or any kind of shooter game. But the immersiveness of swapping to a different rifle and hearing it, ping, like, in the little speaker, and then you're like pressing down the adaptive trigger because it changes. And then all of a sudden your fingers bouncing off the thing because it because you're firing a machine gun. Very satisfying gunplay in Ratchet. Doesn't make him hot though. I actually think Clank is a bit hotter than Ratchet, to be perfectly honest. Although Rivet is the girl Ratchet, and she's got everything you need. She's got a little kind of like cat eye makeup, She's got a lot of character. She's a tomboy, like our great, my beloved Gadget from Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and she has a little tuft of hair, I believe, from what I remember. So actually, do you know what? I'm going to do another buy-in here, and kind of the exact same thing that I did with Conker. Ratchet, you're out of here. Freddy, I like the idea of you putting me through a kind of weird, kind of kinky, kind of, fun house. I'd be into that as long as I didn't have to do anything. Mad. I could just look at shit. But it's going to be Rivet. I think Rivet is one of the hotter video game characters the last 10 years. Animals. Even though she's an alien, but whatever. Congratulations, Rivet. All right, next up you have Birdo. Ooh, more like Bird. Oh my God, what a hot bird. In Birdo, and Tom Nook from the Animal Crossing franchise. Birdo, most people might recognize from Mario Kart. Her first appearance was actually what was technically Doki Doki Panic, which was so what happened was Mario Bros came out on the NES, created by Shigeru Miyamoto, and then he made part 2, right? And that was very hard, and he released it only in Japan, and the Japanese were like, "This is great." The Yanks were like, "This is too hard. No, I don't like this." And so then what they did is like, shit, we need a different kind of sequel. Everyone's going to be hearing about Mario Bros. 2 in Japan. We need to do something. So what they did is they took a game that was already released in Japan, Doki Doki Panic, and they reskinned it, meaning they took the sprites, the drawings of the characters that you play as, and they swapped them out with Mario. And that's pretty much all they did. Swapped it out with Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Peach. And the first boss in Mario is Birdo. And Birdo spits out an egg from her fucking nose, mate, at you. And then you have to jump on the egg and then pick it up from midair and fuck at her, right? And Birdo is in love with you. That's the whole thing. She spits eggs at you because she loves you. And she's also kind of technically the first trans character that I can think of in video. Maybe, I don't know, that I can think of in video games. In that she, what the book actually says in Doki Doki Panic, translated from Japanese, is that she's born a boy who wants to be a girl. And now it's kind of been changed that now she is a girl. So obviously the transition went well, since the 80s. So I think she's pretty hot. Obviously she's flying the flag. I think that's pretty hot. Again, not going into what I would do with her, because that's not what this is about. Is she attractive? Yes. But I wouldn't mind wearing the face off her with that mouth thing that she has, that nose mouth thing. I just think it'd be really soft and nice. Put my whole head in there. See what happens. And then you got Tom Nook. Tom Nook's kind of got a Michael Douglas thing going on. He's just... I like him. He's reliable. I have a weird kind of sexual tension with him on my island because I'm like, Tom, look, just let me buy the extension to my house. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Once you pay our mortgage. And I'm like, Tom. And I'm trying to like show off my tits. I'm like, Tom, what's the story? What's it going to take for you to let me off this one, okay? I'm just a baby. I'm just a new villager. I just want a big house, And he's like, no, you got to pay your bills. And I'm like, come on. Do we have to do this whole thing? It's really kinky when we go in there. When I go try and pay off my mortgage on my Animal Crossing island. And then I'm trying to do a bridge. And I thought, he's like, oh, well, some of the villagers will pay for the bridge. but none of the fucking villagers have chipped in an iota for from a big ornate Chinese bridge that I wanted to build. Wankers, because I have to keep fucking putting the thing down so I can cross it, doing the stick thing so I can cross it. I just want bridges everywhere. And it's taken ages. I actually haven't played it in ages. I'd say if I went back, there's going to be weeds everywhere, and everyone's going to be like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, as if I need this right now. I come here to forget about all the people I'm letting down. So Tom Nook kind of gives me a weird kind of juju that I haven't paid off all my bills. It's insane. It's insane how in the middle of COVID, the most popular game was a game where you go on to where you get a mortgage and you have to pay it off, and you can't do it. And you have to weed the island and fish for the same fucking bass, same sea bass every fucking day, just so you can pay off a mortgage. But we loved it. Anyway, it's Birdo. It's Birdo with a bullet that's also an egg. All right, next up, the goat from Goat Simulator. It's a sheep. And Croc, 3D platforming icon, Croc. So the Croc gives me weird juju, right? There's a weird thing. Like, Star Wars Attack of the Clones is all shot on digital, right? I know where am I fucking going with this. But there's an era of like 2002, 2007 of like the worst looking movies that were all kind of shot on digital. I'm not a proper cinematography nut, terrifying if you were, but I don't really know. So I don't really know the ins and outs of this. But from what I understand, there's an era of certain films being made that they can never look any better. Like I was watching 4K 2001 Space Odyssey, 4K fucking Spartacus there, and it's amazing. And 2001 they could even blow up to 8K, to 16K because it was shot on 70mm, right? So because of that, they can take the image and they can highlight that. There is so much information in a still image that they can blow up to a massive size. But with digital film, they can't. There also is kind of an era of early PlayStation 1 games that, like the SNES, you can kind of play and you can get behind. There's some classic games in there that you could still pick up now and play. But there's an early 3D level before, kind of in the weird interim between kind of two thumbsticks, where you couldn't really operate the camera. It's almost unplayable, and Croc is one of them games. You know what I mean? Where you're moving the character and then the camera is not quite following you. Mario 64 somehow does it perfectly, but there's some 3D platformers where they couldn't quite figure out where the fuck you're looking. The camera was never an issue. Beforehand, it was 2D, meaning it's a stage. We're all watching this, it's on a stage, Then the camera comes into it. So there's these games like Croc that just kind of, I feel like if I picked up now, I'd be like, this is fucking shite, man. And so Croc there's a weird kind of thing with some early PlayStation games that made me feel uncomfortable, and I can't quite place what that is. I think it's maybe just the disappointment sometimes that when you would spend £60, and I'm saying pounds here, not because I'm a West Brit, bunged up West Brit abroad, right? Because that was punts back then. I'm talking about £60 on a game, and you couldn't rent them because there was only SNES games. For the first 4 years of PlayStation, there was no rentable PlayStation games, right? So you just buy your games. And then buying a game, maybe not like Croc, but picking up a game for 60 quid, the same price as a Crash Bandicoot, the same price as what would end up being like a Metal Gear Solid or a Resident Evil. There was an era of early adopting PlayStation games that were just dog shit. And I'm not calling Croc one of them. I know it was had successes. I couldn't play it now. But it's the disappointment of spending 60 quid in a game. And then your mom pops her head in. She's like, how is it? And you're like, it's great. Because you can't bear say it's shy. You spend 60 quid on this. You can't bear say it's shy. So PlayStation 1 games, I have a nostalgia for some of them, but a lot of them kind of get me down. And I can't quite fit. Maybe I'll go to therapy about that. And then you got Goat from Goat Simulator. Now, Goat's a rascal. Okay, he's a little rambunctious. All right, he's a little wild. Goat Simulator, if you haven't played, is you run around as a goat in kind of an open world, kind of Tony Hawk's level, like an extra large Tony Hawk's level, and you're just kind of like licking people, and like he's got a big long tongue, and he connects himself to stuff, and you can strap rockets to him, and you can smash into people, and it's just a big clumsy exploration of a fun physics engine. That's how much of a cold I have. I can't even say G. Engine. Physics engine. Engine Martin. Me and Engine Martin. My favorite comedian is probably Engine Martin. I just think she's so funny. She really gets me and my friends. Engine Martin. You know Engine Martin? Andy Martin's actually a friend of mine. Well, we're pally when we see each other. Anyway, look, whatever. Yeah, Goat wins. All right, next up you got Falco Lombardi and Goose from Untitled Goose Game. The Battle of the Birds, the Battle of the bulge in my pants looking at these birds. These are two birds I like. Falco's a badass. Falco's like that perfect Japanese action character who's all like, "What are you talking about? I don't want to hear that shit." You know, in anime, there's always like a real asshole and a lot of asshole characters. Everyone's an asshole. People love it. Everyone loves people being rude in Japanese media. And Falco's like that. You know, everyone's very serious in Star Fox. Apart from Peppy, of course, the big chubby rabbit. But everyone's very serious. But you got and then you know Fox McCloud's very serious. But then Falco's all like, "What are you talking about? No way!" You know, that kind of thing. And he's pretty badass, and he looks cool. And then you got Goose from Untitled Goose Game, and he looks very clean. Like his feathers, his plumage is beautiful, very clean. I mean, obviously it's very helpful being cell shaded. You know that he's just clear matte white, and he looks gorgeous. You know, or whatever he is, whatever she is. And you know she's a rascal, he's a rascal, stealing glasses off a kid, giving him a hunk. If you haven't seen it, I did a whole playthrough of Untitled Goose Game during my brief COVID streaming career, which I hope to get back into when my children are grown-ups. Look, do everything you need to do now, right? Do everything you have to do now. Anyway, listen, so yeah, I'm going to do, so the goose. The thing is, though, look, I don't fancy birds. I love birds. Quote Jack Rayner, I used to ride birds, right? I do like birds, and I fancy human birds. Well, actually, I fancy one human bird, and she's next door. Hoovering. Give it over. I don't know if you heard that. It was the sound of a hoovering next door. I fancy one bird who hoovers. And often when I'm watching like Attenborough, and it goes to the birds, I'm like, oh, here we fucking go. I'm bored, right? Unless it's one of those big, crazy-eyed, massive-billed birds that like eats other birds, and they're like psycho birds. I like that shit because I'm a fucking freak. I'm swearing so much. Look, as you can tell, I'm treading water here. I don't have much to say. I think Falco's cool. He's got a lot more attitude. I love the soft, feathery down of Goose. I wouldn't mind eating the goose and then plucking it and sleeping on it. But I don't want to make love to it. And for that reason, I'm out of my mind. I'm going with Falco. All right, moving on. Next, you have the cat from Stray and Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, right. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, right. So, see, the thing is, the cat from Stray is a fucking 10 out of 10. Good looking video game animal, right? Not a lot of depth to it. All it does is go meow. It is literally a cat. It is playing a cat simulator in a robot world. A fun game, but didn't have much of a reason to go back to it. And then you got Sonic. Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Dun 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 dun. You know, there's a Dennis Neary on you. You didn't say the magic word. He does that all the time, right? He's a lot of attitude. Hand on his hip, puts his foot like that. But I'm not attracted to him. I'm not attracted to him. I think there's something weird going up with his eyebrows. I don't like how big his feet are. I've unfortunately seen too much, or been sent far too much, Sonic fan art of him like farting into a tube. You know, shit like that. A lot of people send me shit like that, or you know him, or his feet doing shit. People are mad. It makes me uncomfortable. I feel sick about it now. I've unfortunately been sent too much Sonic porn as a joke to see him in any other way. It's kind of like when you have a dream about your mate and you had a ride with them in your dreams, you know, not even a ride, but like you were kissing them or whatever, you know, and then you're feeling a bit weird that day. You know, I have the same vibe with Sonic, based on the sheer terabytes of fan images I've seen on DeviantArt of him doing mad stuff. So again, this is not RuPaul's most iconic video game animals race. This is not RuPaul's best friend race. This is RuPaul's hottest video game animals race. And for that reason, the cat from Stray is beating Sonic in this competition. Bowser is out. Yoshi is out. Sonic is out. This is crazy. Right. Moving on. All right, next up we got Ridley from Metroid versus Spyro. More like Ridley's Believe It or Not. This dragon is hot. It's actually mad. We got a battle of two dragons here. Ridley, obviously a big Nintendo frontrunner here, and Spyro. Now look, Ridley, I've never really played the Metroid games. I'm not really a big Metroidvania type game fan. But I respect Samus. Not only is she a babe, but she's also, I should say, not only is she badass, she's also a babe. Because in that order, I mean, you wouldn't have a Master Chief without Samus. You wouldn't have probably a lot of shit. You wouldn't probably have Barrett with a big gun hand on his hand without Samus. You know, Mega Man probably invented that. Anyway, look, Samus is a badass babe. She's kind of like Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow, except cooler. But I don't really know Ridley. I only know Ridley from the Smash Bros level, where they're kind of like it's kind of swiping at you. Wouldn't be my first choice looks wise, but you cannot deny the fact that the character model of Ridley. Look, let me put it this way: there is no doubt a multi-million-dollar industry. There is a multi-million-dollar industry based around dildos that are shaped like Ridley. I'm talking about Dragon Cocks, right? And I know I said I wouldn't go into pee-pees and poo-poos in this podcast and talk about that sort of smut. But you can't deny the fact that there's obviously a massive kink for creatures that look exactly like Ridley, you know? But then you got Spyro. Spyro the Dragon. One of the early PlayStation games that I could probably play again. I wouldn't feel, it's just because it's flat. It's kind of like Crash, You're not jumping around. It's not proper 3D. It's kind of like, 2.5D, kind of, And he has the famous tuft. He has the important tuft of hair atop his head to show that he is a boy and a handsome boy and a kind of a cheeky boy, Or is Spyro a boy? He's a boy. He's a boy with a little tuft of hair. Look, I'm not into dragons. Some people would have loved to imagine dragons, giving them the business, but not me. I would not like to imagine dragons doing that. What's up with that fucking name? Are they like, imagine there was like dragons? It's actually pretty good chat. That's the sort of chat I like. Imagine there were dragons in here. Or like, all right, let's actually think about that. How would it go down? My favorite thing to think about, though, sometimes is just imagine if a giraffe burst in here. Whacking his head. I used to have fantasies about that. Giraffes just bursting their head in a window, smashing their head off the fucking chalkboard in school. And the teacher would be like, stop, stop, stop! Eating the back of some kid's jacket. And he's like, ah! Just being terrified of something that no one's really going to die from, but someone could get a good whack. Anyway, and for that reason, I'm going to go with Spyro. All right, next up we got Candy Kong. Oh my God, you're going to make a boy blush. Can we get the HB ice cream van to come in and cool me down for this competition versus Amaterasu from Okami? Okay, let's start with Okami. I haven't played it, but Amaterasu is a big, handsome, flaming wolf. Come on. I, as you know, once tried to get the name Wolfius. I was so into wolves. Right? I've always been into wolves. I've always been into the Wolfman. Wolfman was my favorite. It was the idea that I could just completely let loose and kind of not be accountable for my actions and also be a wolf. Teen Wolf was a huge... Teen Wolf, it's funny, you see things... Some kids see, like, Evel Knievel, right? And they're like, I want to be, a daredevil. Or they see, David Blaine, and they're like, I want to be, a magician. I saw Teen Wolf, and I'm like, how do I figure that out? How do I do that? What, do I have to get bit by a wolf? Where am I going? Do I just put my arm in the cage in Dublin Zoo? How is this going to happen for me? I loved wolves. Then everyone got into wolves, and then it was three wolves fucking howling at the moon, t-shirts that were going fucking massive and all that crap, right? I was into wolves before all that. Like the most obvious things became like mainstream, like bacon. Bacon, bacon strips and bacon strips. Like everyone loves bacon, you fucking having a go. I'm not getting angry. But I was into wolves before when people were like, what's your favorite animal? I was like, wolves. But then I was in this, and then I got, I got too trendy for my own good. And they were like, what's your favorite animal? And I was like, bat. And then I was like a hedgehog, as you know, because I have a spirit animal. It was a hedgehog. And then I kind of fell off with wolves. But early on, I used to love wolves. I remember my mom spent an insane amount of money on encyclopedias one time. She's like, I just thought we'd get encyclopedia, door-to-door salesman sold us encyclopedias. And actually, to be fair, we love them. I used to read them all the time. And I used to read about timber wolves. And I remember literally, there was no one asked me to do this, but I rewrote the entire thing about timber wolves and drew pictures of timber wolves. And I gave it to my teacher one morning. So what's she gonna? She goes, that's very good. Did you write that? I'm like, yeah. Very well written. Thank you. Don't know what I wanted. I was like, I was kind of just like, know that I know everything about wolves. I need you to know that I know everything. You think you're a fucking teacher and that you have something to educate me? Read that, bitch. Yeah, do you know timber wolves are in hunting packs? Read it, and then come back to me. So I love wolves. I love Teen Wolf, and the idea of being a Japanese paintbrush wielding flaming wolf is a pretty exciting prospect. But look, the same boy who was obsessed with Timberwolves would have pined over Candy Kong. I remember stopping off in Donkey Kong Country at Candy Save Point and thinking, well, how do I get into this thing? Banging my head, hurting my head on how to get into the TV, trying to full Tron it, Dun! Ah! Ma's like, what are you doing? I'm like banging my head off for polygon tits and trying to get into the thing, And it's mad how these things are made. Like, it's things start off. That's why I always find Final Fantasy so insane, like early kind of like the density of JRPGs and Japanese games, right? I know I'm kind of going a weird kind of tangent here. Bear with me, right? You kind of got American games and they're like, all right, Frogger. What can we make out of 30 pixels? And they're like, I suppose you can make a frog. And they, make Frogger jumping across the road, right? I don't even know if that was how Frogger was made, but this is my interpretation of it, right? But then you got Japanese games like, Final Fantasy. And they're like, okay, so this is Cloud. This is Cloud Strife, and this is his whole backstory. And then this is all this images we did of him. And this is, this is Midgar. And this is all these, and this is the fucking, the Ragnarok, the ship, and they're all these, and this is a chocobo, and all these incredible illustrations. And then they're like, all right, now how do we make that look like fucking 9 polygons? They're like, oh, suppose we could do his hair like that, and then we can go back and alter it then after that. But the whole image was like, they had the art, and they're like, how do we make that into, how do we degrade that so it'll fit within a video game? And I feel like with Candy Kong, they were like, looked at Donkey Kong and they were like, this is a hot piece. I'm just saying that's the difference. It's like, rather than trying to, grow up from 1 pixel, they're like, how do we dilute down from an entire world into something that's that size, And I find that fascinating. With Candy Kong, they were probably like, all right, Donkey Kong needs a girlfriend. She's got to be a hot looking ape, right? So how do we do that? And they probably did loads of illustrations, and then they made it out of clay and they photographed it or made it out of 3D and then put the sprites, and like so much would have went into making something about this tall on your screen look as fuckable as possible. Do you know what I mean? It's because they, like, nowadays when you play video games, like I'm playing Cyberpunk, and I have a 55-inch TV, right? And I can't read a fucking thing that's on it. Can't read anything. I can't read anything that's on the screen. I'm getting text messages. They're not big. And like, even on my phone, I can make the text is massive, But for whatever reason, in the future, everyone's having to be like, I feel like my dad. I give my dad something. I show him something on the phone, and it's almost like It's almost like a fist came out of it and knocked him back because he's like, "Oh no, what? That's too close. I can't fucking read that shit. Got to get my reading glasses on." Like, "Oh, pa," and I keep asking, when's that going to happen to me? And he's like, "It's gradual. It's gradual." Oh, fuck. Anyway, look, I just find it fascinating that they had to dilute pure raw sexuality to the size of an inch for a save point in a Donkey Kong game. And for that reason, I'm in love with Candy Kong and Omoretsu as a fellow wolf that I am. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. All right, last up, you got Gex, Enter the Gecko. He wasn't really a spy. He was just really a gecko running around. And then Daxter from the Jak and Daxter franchise. I've never been into the Jak and Daxter franchise. I think it's the same thing I didn't get into Ratchet and Clank. I just don't like good vanilla goodies, you know? I kind of need a bit of a bad boy. Gex is kind of a bad boy. He's wisecracking, you know? Once I had the Turtles and I met people like Raphael, once I had people like Knuckles, I'm like, I can't get into your Aladdin bullshit anymore. I can't get into some Prince goody vanilla. I mean, it's mad how much I'm into Superman, you know, because I love Superman. But, you know, I can't get into your vanilla boys, okay? Your vanilla chai latte boys. And Jak is kind of one of those guys. Daxter is kind of he's wacky, he's crazy, you know? He's kind of Jim Carrey on your back the whole time. But for whatever reason, I just couldn't get into him. And I also don't really fancy him because he's wacky, you know? I'm wacky. I couldn't be with anyone wackier than me, you know? On the other hand, Gex is weirdly like a stoner. It's kind of a weird thing. He's kind of got a bit of a Rob Van Dam thing going on where he's an incredible athlete, but he smokes a lot of weed. When you play Gex, Enter the Gecko, he says stuff like, I'm the Lizard King. And he says stuff like, you know, oh my God, I feel like Keith Richards when he's seeing all shit. You know, he's obviously into the Doors, into the Stones. He wears the suit because he asked them for a suit at the start of the game. I was watching recently. And he's wisecracking, he's cool, but he also gives me that kind of PlayStation 1, oh, this game's a bit shit. I need to analyze what that is, that kind of uncomfortable feeling that early PlayStation 1 bad graphic games give me. In the same way that 2D graphic games don't really give me that anymore. Maybe just 2D has had a bit of a resurgence. Games like Celeste and, you know, Hades, you know, it's a kind of, you know, games like these, you know. Some of the 2D Marios, you know, like 2D platformers have had a resurgence, but 3D platformers in the vein of a kind of a PlayStation 1 game haven't quite in the same way. And for that, a bit of a downer at the end, but for that reason, I'm gonna go with Gex. Gex is more my kind of vibe. I'll do a bit of more of a deep dive, see if I can learn more about him. I know he's a Crystal Dynamics beast, which is who have done Tomb Raider and the Marvel Avengers game. And I'm sorry to say, Daxter, you're out of here. I'm not interested. I wouldn't know what to do with you. Gex, I could at least see myself hanging out with, maybe smoking a bit of the herb with, talking about music. He'd probably be talking at me about the Rolling Stones, and I'd be like, I don't care what you're saying. It's not as good as Beatles, you know? But anyway, look, that's Candy Kong against Gex. Yeah, that's going to fucking... All right, well, look, that's very interesting. We do a little recap on where we are. The final is going to be either next week or the week after. I have a couple of podcasts in the pipeline. I don't know which one's going to come out next, but it'll be coming up soon. It'll be half, of course, the final, and then half whatever else has been going on in my life. So that's been that. Thanks for sticking with me through this. Only one more to go, but if you're enjoying it, there's also one more to go, and it's going to be very exciting. It'll be the quarter, semi, and final. So I'll need to do a bit of a deep dive and research all these now that we're through to it, so I have a bit more to talk about. But it'll be a lot of fun. Be a bit of video game trivia, a bit of video game smut, all from yours truly. Coming up on the pod, what have we got? Well, look, I know I'm not plugging any more dates to you here. No, I'll plug something more. If you're in Cork on the 20th of October, that's next Thursday, I'm going to be performing in Cypress Avenue, doing a live podcast with Killian Sunderman and my good pal Jordan Daniel. We're going to be there, and we're going to be celebrating my birthday, is what we're going to do. Because it's probably my last birthday that I can actually just be about me, because I'll have two kids then, and I can take the miss. So we're going to celebrate my birthday, which isn't even on that day. But anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to be talking birthday parties. We're going to be talking about birthday presents. Maybe even a little dash of Halloween thrown in there. Also, and I will say that I've been. It's a sponsored thing, the Omniplex that I'm doing. But if you wanted to go, no obligation because it's a sponsored thing. That's on. I'm going to be watching The Mummy on the 27th of October as part of a Halloween live watch party in the Omniplex in Rathmines with Darren Conway, Killian Sunderman again. So we're going to be watching The Mummy. We're going to be in fancy dress. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a bar in the room with us, and it should be oodles of fun. So come see The Mummy. Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. He's back, by the way. If you want to come see that, there'll be tickets below for all that good stuff. Well, look, thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for everyone's kind recommendations of names for this space station set thing that I got going on here. The number one suggestion so far is the Plunar Sky Module. So if you can top that, do so in the comments below. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. All the best. Bye-bye.